Perfect. So here with Marcos Benevides, and you're just telling us about this boss that forced everyone to speak English in the company that I used to work for. How did it happen?
So we were a very small company. I was the third programmer. That's how small, we were, like very early stage startup. And then I think Costa was the fourth one because like
Yep.
yeah, you were the fourth one. So I asked you to join us, so you joined. So very early company, very chaotic place. Uh, as it happens in many startups, we didn't have a well-defined product. And then this new manager joined. Now, this is interesting because this manager, like, he was already on acquaintance with one of the older senior programmers where we were, and also one of the acquaintance of the CEO. So they knew his personality, like he knew how he worked. And then the first thing he did on the first day was like, hey, this place is a chaos. Everything here is chaotic. I want to put some order here, and I want to put some culture in this place. And the first thing about the engineering culture here is that you're supposed to talk in English. All the engineering team is going to talk in English, whether you like it or not. You either like it, and like Costa mentioned before, you either learn how to talk in English, or you get fired. And then,
Matter of fact, he didn't ask about anyone how much you knew about English. He didn't ask that. He wasn't interested if you know the basics or if you never heard about English, how to speak it. He just said, next day you gotta speak English the whole day.
yeah, very uncomfortable. Like everyone was out of the zone of comfort, I guess. I had a very, like, I even forgot about that, but Costa mentioned, like, I had a very strong Russian accent because that was the only way I could speak English. A very thick accent.
You
And
had a
then
Russian accent?
yeah, it's kind of like how I was going to speak like this. I was like very slow.
Yeah,
And
did
then,
you ever heard that Russian speaking, man?
yeah, like
Okay.
a
You could swear Benevides was a Russian guy.
yeah, so and then everyone was supposed to speak in English. Like it was very hard in the beginning, but over time it really became culture, and people started to think in English. People started writing English every time. And man, like you have no idea how much that helped us career wise. Like it's just some crazy dude comes into the company, puts a bunch of rules, and somehow it works. Like it's a no. I have a lot to thank for that guy. We have a lot to thank because he's now our current manager as well. Like what we were saying, like he was the best manager we ever had, a good mentor as well, and he was such a good mentor that we even managed to bring him back to our company later.
He's such a good at managing. He has a lot of issues. He has a lot of flaws
Yeah,
per se, but still, he's such a good manager that I hired him to the company that I was working for as my manager. I went to my boss and I pretty much we had a position open for like management type of thing, and I was like, I know I could vouch to take that position, but this guy is insane as a manager, so let's bring him instead. And he came, and that's how we managed to build like a whole team, a whole Brazilian team in the company. Um,
That's great.
he's that good, where like his peers would vouch for him to join.
You're talking about the same boss, the one that forced everyone to
same
speak.
Yeah,
boss. Yeah,
we're talking the
exactly.
same boss. We
It's like
brought him.
it's so important for there to be people that don't care if you like them or not, because the world needs those people, the people that know what's right and will tell us what to do, and it doesn't matter if you like them or not for that. Just do it.
Matter of fact, last week he almost was fired again for the same reason. He knew he was right, and he couldn't take a no for an answer for a guy that's very dumb, pretty much. The guy doesn't know much, and the guy's a very high political position in the company, and he keeps like fighting with this guy because he knows the guy is wrong, and he's trying to make the guy understand that the guy is not going to budge. So the guy is kind of friend of the CTO of the company, so he almost
Yeah.
got fired. Again, it's not the first time he ever gets fired because of that. He already got fired once because of the same reason. He didn't
Yeah,
know how to
It's kind of like
Right,
a
but-
trait of his personality, high
Yeah.
high risk, high reward. That's like his motto. Like, yeah, I'm always high risk, high reward. But for technology, like we need those kind of crazy people sometimes, you know? For certain places, you need people like that. The tech business is not about like being conservative 100% of the time. I'm going to tell a story about some of like our previous company, because thanks to him, like he was able to put a very small Brazilian company in the spotlight. We were like a normal company doing with a normal tech stack. Like now it's going like a little bit of programming talk, technical talk, but we were a normal like Python, Node.js place, you know. And then this guy comes and say, "Hey, we're going to do Fsharp. I don't care how. I'm going to get a contract with someone, and then we're going to do Fsharp." Then I was like, "Dude, Fsharp, what the fuck?" And this is not the first time he did that, because the senior guy who also knew him, he was like, "Oh man, he did it. He also did that in my previous company, like in 2014, and almost got fired because of that." But he was like, he was very keen into this idea. No, I believe this is the perfect enterprise tech stack. Like he has these very fixed ideas of the things. I know that this, I know for a fact that this is the very enterprise tech stack ever, and I'm going to prove it in Brazil. No one believed it. He will do that. Costa was one of the guys who worked on that project. Like he gave Costa one junior engineer, if I'm not mistaken, or two.
Magetta. One.
A very
I have
crazy
Magetta.
project, a new project like Greenfield. And in 6 months, we had something very complex working in that crazy tech stack. And it was such an interesting story that he said, "Hey, publish this and put this in an international talk." And then no one believed that we were, no one wants to know about some Fsharp company in Brazil. But it actually got accepted in the largest Fsharp event in the world. Like it's a very niche event, but it's like, dude, the story got accepted, and one of our guys went to present there, and it was like it was a case description on how a small place could just like take this very interesting piece of technology and apply it and make maintainable software. So and that taught me a lot. Like that taught me a lot. And nowadays, luckily, I work with Costa with this interesting technology, and I can't see myself doing anything else because I have to agree with him. Like it is the very enterprise, one of the best enterprise technologies ever. It's a good ecosystem. It's this. Like I don't know if I should be more technical or not, but it's like a.
No, please go. Everyone's technical as far as I know, right?
Oh well. The reason why, for instance, nowadays I just code in Fsharp because, well, every language has this dichotomy. Like, okay, I want to write a script, so I go with Python or Node.js or anything else like that enables me to write scripts. If you are a Linux guy, like, okay, I'm just going to write shell scripts. Well, Fsharp is a very interesting language because even though it's a compiler language, you can just change the file extensions. Instead of writing an fs file, .fs, I don't know, something.fs, you just write something.fsx. The moment you write something.fsx, that thing is going to be interpreted as a script that you can pull dependencies. So imagine that you are writing a Python script, but then you can pull, I don't know, pandas as part of the script, and you don't have to fiddle with I don't even know like the packaging stuff in Python nowadays or Node.js. Like you don't have to pull to install a bunch of packages. The script already downloads a fixed version for you if you put the fixed version. So nowadays I don't even write shell scripts anymore. I just pull inside my scripts a library that enables me to run shell commands, and then I write my scripts in Fsharp. So as someone who wrote a bunch of shell scripts, especially in my previous jobs, I have to say, like, it's an interesting experience because I have a type system to help me. So I can write a script that is in a very interesting typed language, a language that can say to me, "Hey, this type is wrong. This is not going to work." So it's like I get the best of both worlds. I have a very strong type system helping me script stuff. But of course, that's not the main usage of Fsharp. I'm not writing scripts 100% of my time. We have to actually develop programs with that as well. Now you have .NET, which I used to be I used to have a lot of prejudice against .NET, okay, especially when I was like younger on college, etc. .NET, that's like corporate bullshit. I'm not going to do that, never. And then nowadays I see myself in this ecosystem, and I was like, oh man, .NET is such a breath of fresh air, because I don't have to deal with a bunch of, like, .NET itself is like a very conservative environment. Things just work. I don't have to think about lots of stuff. And I was like, you just .NET build, and then things work, and then the code is, the performance is decent, because there's lots of optimizations with and every version just gets better and faster. So I was like, oh man, it's such a breath of fresh air, where I don't have to be preoccupied with a bunch of like, oh no, they changed the build system again. Oh no, there's a new way to install packages. Oh no, there's a new library to do that. No, like usually things don't change a lot. When they change, they're good. So it is indeed that manager. He was crazy, but he was right. At least for this particular choice of his, it is indeed a good enterprise language, but it's a good enterprise language that can also be used in a startup environment. Actually, our startup benefited from that crazy project of his being done in this crazy language, because we were paid, like, it was a outsourcing project. So we were paid to develop software. And when you are paid to develop software for someone as an outsourced company, you are billed by the time. So they pay you, for instance, I don't know, 20 hours, maybe 40 hours a month. I don't know how our contract was, but I'm going to make up a random contract here. I think it was like 40 hours a month of maintenance. That's fine. Like, they pay us that. If we spend too much time solving bugs, those 40 hours, they are going to grow. So we're being paid 40 hours, but then we're like working 60 or 100 hours a month on these projects. So we are losing money. In this project in particular, I think, there was a point in time where a junior would spend 2 hours a week, that is 8 hours a month, maintaining the stuff and adding changes, but we were billed like 40 hours, something like that, or 80, you know? So we were technically stealing that company, because they're like, dude, they're paying us 20 hours a week, and we are spending 2 hours actually maintaining the code. So we are profiting 18 hours, because we picked some very interesting choice of technologies. We applied it well for that particular domain. And at the end of the day, it wasn't generating us overhead. Actually, we were able to focus elsewhere, thanks to those choices. So that guy was crazy manager, crazy ideas, but he was right about English, and he was right in this case about the particular tech stack that we use it. And it indeed, like, it opened lots of doors for everyone in the team.
I've been working with him for 2 years. To this day, I don't know how he manages to enforce culture to grow. I just think he pushes until it happens.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I want to understand, that I think is one of his most valuable skill. I never see him being able to actually precisely. He knows what he wants to do most of the time, but he's not able to, as far as I know, he never explained how he managed to change culture, because culture is very expensive for a company to change. And whenever he joins a new company, he changes the culture very easily.
Well, he either does that or he gets fired, right? That's what happens with his previous job.
Yeah, he got fired a couple of times because of hard trying to change the culture. So,
Yeah,
like
so
Ben said, it's go big or go home.
yeah.
And he got home a couple of times.
Yeah, nice, great guy though. Great guy. Very interesting guy. Anyway, do you have questions, like, or do you want me to monologue about programming languages, or because I can go in the story of how I was hired in our previous company. Can I name the company? It was Dataries. I already named it. Okay, it was a Florianopolis company from They do machine learning. It's an interesting company still because they always had more data scientists than programmers, because the company itself, like the 3 people who built the company, they are statisticians from the same place, from USP, by the way. So they're like, they knew each other. Some of them knew each other literally from college, in a certain way. So we always had this very weird company where we always had more people working with data and very little programming people, way less engineers working on stuff. And the reason why I was hired on that company was actually kind of weird, because I was working with Java in São Luís at the time, like on Selma. And but I was still playing. I was still in college. I was playing with a bunch of different stuff. And some guy came on LinkedIn wanting to talk to me because he saw that I had some projects in a crazy language called Coq. Now, Coq and C-O-K, okay, it's not C-O-C-K. It's
Still sounds dirty though.
There's a reason. Yeah, it's a French language, and they did it on purpose, by the way. I think it means chicken in French, something like that. So, rooster actually, it means rooster in French. And they did it on purpose. So English people would say another word by mistake.
It also means rooster in English.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Rooster. Yes.
So, and then this guy comes to me, and I was like, hey, this guy's from Florianópolis. What the fuck he wants? He started talking with me. And guess who was this guy? It was the same manager we had in the previous company, but this was in 2018, by the way. So he was like, hey, I had this crazy idea. I want you, like, by the way, since 2018, he has been like headbutting probably in his company trying to do Fsharp. And he says, hey, I want you to do the test for this company I'm working right now in Fsharp so I can show to my boss and he can agree with me. And I was like, okay, I applied, but I didn't make to the process. But I was still with this guy on my LinkedIn connection because like, dude, this guy's crazy. What the fuck? Like he connects to people randomly, and then he asks you to do like a test in these random languages, and like, okay, this seems like an interesting connection to have. So when I applied to a different company in Florianópolis, it just happened that one of the programmers of this company worked with this guy. And then he was like, hey, I did an interview with this guy, and what do you think about him? I was like, oh yeah, he applied to my previous company. He was very, like, he didn't make it, but yeah, just go with him. He seems interesting. So that's how I joined that. And I met interesting people in that place, so to speak. Like there were some very interesting guys there, some very interesting, a lot to learn. And one of the other reasons why I was hired as well is that at that time I was playing with a weird operating system, which is this one, which I with the shirt here, NixOS. And one of the guys there say, oh yeah, we had a crazy weirdo in my previous company who used that, and I want to use that. So can you speak about it? So I just started speaking about it very passionately, because right now I don't contribute as much, and that's like an issue with me. I should contribute back more, especially for career-wise, like for career reasons, because at least like if I analyze my own history, it seems that all those crazy opportunities, they pop up because I'm using something weird, or because I'm investigating something weird, something that is very niche. So all these opportunities, they seem to pop up when I'm doing weird stuff. This seems to be like something that's been happening to me all this time. So I was like, why not? I should invest more. So if you guys plan to do open source, like open source, especially contributing to stuff that you use, like contributing to stuff that you use is one of the greatest ways to open the doors for an international career. Okay, if you are someone, for instance, who works with Python or with Node.js, and then you start contributing with important stuff, or if you find some niche that you feel like you can contribute, and then you do some stuff there, like some opportunities will pop up because you're going to meet interesting people because of that. And even if you are in an interesting place as well, if you are in a place where you can see some people that are interesting and they're doing weird stuff, they might be like good people to glue, like to connect with, to understand, because usually those people, they go to other places, and the best way to get to another company or to switch to a better place is knowing some people who are already there. That's how I met my current place, by the way, because I know Costa, and Costa knows me. And Costa worked with some of my current co-workers in a previous company, so he can vouch for them. So it's kind of like how it works, basically.
Here's
Networking.
it's a broad. I think it's actually a broader tip.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a niche, it's easier
Mm.
to see you on the crowd. You know.
Yeah.
So do something that generates a lot of value and makes you shine at a crowd. So, for example, Bene is very good at very weird stuff, but internationally, those weird stuff they are seen as valuable. They are seen like a very hard level type of things. That carve technology that he was talking about, that's a language to prove that your code is right. It's a very mathematical and hard shit to learn. If you like, for example, if you just showcase that shit to a junior, he will not get it because there's nothing like YouTube tutorials about it. You gotta read a paper, like a scientific paper, to get it. And if you're trying to get like a lot of, pretty much a lot of visibility, a lot of value, reputation, that kind of stuff, do stuff that's going to make you visible in a crowd. For just like a number that I know for sure, this language that Ben is mentioning, Fsharp, is this language belongs to the same stack as C#. Just like Java and Clojure belong to the same stack. And the Reddit community for C# is around 2 million users, 2 million globally, like worldwide. The Fsharp community worldwide is only 50,000. It goes from 2 million to 50,000. So it's way easier to shine in a community that's 50,000 than a community that's 2 million people. Even though Fsharp is harder to learn, if you just go to Stack Overflow, for example, and look at the survey that they have every year, Stack Overflow does a survey on about like the highest paying salaries. All the top languages that pay the highest, they are all functional. Fsharp is the fourth or third position over there, and it's almost counterintuitive. Like the place where it could shine the most, which is Fsharp, is the one that paid the highest, and the crowd is very small, just 50,000 people. It's way easier to shine in that place than like in the C# world where everyone is at. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you, I want to add an addendum as well. Like, starting might be harder. And I think the first one who actually got an F# job outside Brazil was Costa, because like you're probably applying to a bunch of different places, right? At the time.
No, I was mischievous about it. I did what I did best, which is networking. I applied once, and I got it.
Oh man, that's like, this guy has like a crazy power levels when it comes to applying to weird stuff. Yeah, let's see. But
No,
what he
actually, it's
said about
politics. I'm
me,
good at politics. I didn't get because of the F# though. I got it because I had a plan on how to get the position. So I can tell that story later. But anyway, go ahead.
no, like it's about the niches. Like a part of discovering niches as well is, and here's one thing that unfortunately college is not going to teach you, no matter what. Especially colleges in Brazil. Okay, colleges in Brazil, even the best colleges ever, they are not going to teach you how to learn stuff. Okay, none of what we are talking about here, for instance, we learn in college. Yeah, okay, you can go get your food, but none of what we're talking about here, like I don't remember learning functional programming in college. Like neither Costa probably, because we went through the same place to study. We didn't learn that, and that's the very niche area that both of us are nowadays. But we didn't learn. No one taught us that. Why is that? Well, luck perhaps, because some people are lucky enough to meet some niches in university, which is where those crazy niches should pop up. But that's not the case for most people. The only way, luckily with the internet nowadays, you can search for yourself. And that's where I found, for instance, very crazy people, very crazy ideas, and especially very crazy books. Like one of the books that I keep recommending to people, because I think it's going to be a book that's going to influence future software architecture, is the one from Michael Perry, which I believe the first person I recommended was Costa.
And I did read it.
How I found that book, I had a problem in my job. Like I was doing infrastructure, I wasn't doing programming, I wasn't being a software developer. I was tasked with a very annoying job. I had to move cloud infrastructure from one place to another, like from AWS to Azure. We were doing that with Terraform, with infrastructure as code, and I was looking for books on Terraform, but I was using the technology. That book is amazing. It Costa just posted. I was looking for books about Terraform, but I wasn't. I was looking at the summary. I was like, no, that's not what I want. And then I was in a certain Russian library that some people may know what this Russian library looks like. The Russian library where you can get free books, okay? And I searched for a particular term because no, I don't want this Terraform thing. What I want, and then I type it there. I want immutable architecture, but I didn't want that kind of thing, with that kind of book that Costa posted. But then this book popped up, and I was like, the art of immutable infrastructure. And I was like, hey, that's what I want. That's what I want. Because I had this notion that, look, I'm having these problems at work. I'm trying to get some terms. I'm not finding like any academic terms about that. But then I found this book. And this guy, for instance, this guy is a very weird guy, even in academia. So he's a guy who's been involved with Leslie Lamport, which is someone who got the Turing Prize and who is responsible for LaTeX. So like this guy has been involved in both the mathematics and some crazy distributed computing thing. And if you go to any software engineering place nowadays, everyone is talked about distributed computing, but this guy is far ahead of anyone else because he's actually applying his mathematical knowledge to define good distributed systems. And this book is all about that. Now, it's not a book that is heavy on math, but it's a book heavy on some mathematical concepts. And he applies that, he's described that to the whole book. And I was like, oh my God, just by luck, just by like trying to search for something that solved my problem at work. I didn't solve it, by the way, because I couldn't apply his ideas at work. I had like other things that I had to deliver at the time. But just by finding this book, for instance, I have something that might help me and might guide my career for the next years. Because I look at his ideas and say, look, those ideas make a lot of sense. His ideas are very powerful. I'm going to invest in learning some of them. Right now, it's a niche. That's how you find a niche. When you find a niche, you need to look at something, you need to know a little bit of it, and you say, okay, this person has very interesting ideas. They are showing how to apply them. Maybe right now, I won't be able to apply it. But if I study it now, 5 years from now, when people are like discovering this book, I can claim like, yeah, I've read all of it. I understand it. You know, like you are already far ahead everyone else because you found this book earlier. And this is one of the books where I feel like people are going to discover it a few years from now, and they'll say, oh, this guy was right about everything. We were wrong. There could be the other way around. No one might read this, but the ideas are correct. The important part is when you find something where the ideas are correct. Yes, you can ask.
Yeah, my question is, how do you tell something is going to be popular in a few years or not?
You can't. And it's very hard, especially in technology. And I'm going to say that especially in technology, we tend to make the worst things, like the worst ideas. Sometimes they get popular. But maybe it's not about some things getting popular. It's more about you knowing some set of tools, or you having some skills where you can scientifically apply, because we have to remember that we actually do software engineering, okay? And engineering is all about having those abstract ideas, trying to build stuff, and then you try to build stuff on a not only following a certain schedule, on a deterministic manner. And because most of the software nowadays is not produced with those set of ideas, we get stuff that's like very in quality. But if you have like if you have the right ideas, like ideas that are actually based on mathematics, they're based on stronger foundation. That's the word I was looking for. Stronger foundations. You are going to be specialized into building a stronger software, and that tends to pay well on the long run because your skill is like building correct software or building something that is predictable. That's good. That's good from an engineering standpoint.
See.
I heard a phrase today about this. You don't have a way to tell if something is going to be a trend or not, but you sure have a way to know if the trend is already gone. Whenever you see a book about it, the trend's
Yeah.
already gone. It's because to write a book, you need a lot of time. You need to,
Yeah.
there's the whole process of writing it, researching it, and then there's the review. The publisher got to print it, ship it all around. You got to have a license to that matter. By the time you get a book at your hand about it, the trend's probably already gone.
Yeah, it must be hard to deal with
Yeah.
this universe in which things are so quickly changing, like seeing tendencies and being ahead of them. And also,
Although
you might also find something that you think is going to trend and then it doesn't because no one actually cares about it.
although I don't know if some people here do investments, like actually own stocks in company. I know Costa does it. But for instance, there are some fields, there are some industries, they are like, people call them perennial.
Mhm.
People usually say like, look at the electricity business. Now, electricity is a very varied term. It can be transmission, it can be generation, etc. But people usually don't. It's a resource that people want to have, So that's why like electric companies don't just blow up and disappear out of nowhere. Okay, and if there is, for instance, I have this crazy theory. First one, it's about AI. Actually, it's two crazy theories. AI, for instance, it's going to be like electricity. It's going to be very boring, and you can only make money with it if you already have a monopoly. And that's how you make money on electricity. By the way, electricity is such an annoying business to be with. It's full of regulations. That the only way that you can actually make money is if you have like monopoly status over a large area. But it's like it's an essential business after you get that, and then you can make lots of money out of an essential service. Maybe AI will be like that. It'll be like, it's not going to be like what everyone is promising, like, oh, it's going to take humans. No, it's going to be something that's very like somewhat essential. If you build a like, and if you and here's the saddest part, like maybe if you build up, it's easier to make money building a company that uses electricity than building a company that gives electricity back to people. Okay, that's the boring part. Like maybe maybe it's going to be better to be a company that gives like that uses AI to do something else. I don't know. That uses AI in I don't know, agro business or automation, etc. Than being that company that literally gives AI to people. Okay.
Those
And the
plays are
second,
already filled by the giant
yeah,
players, right?
and exactly. And nowadays, the companies that give AI to people, for instance, they are the big players. They are going to make money no matter what, and
They already
it's
make money, to be honest.
lots of money. And AI itself is kind of like electricity in a certain way because you need lots of money to even be like competitive about it. Like
But you see
so,
that you just mentioned, for me, I don't worry anymore about trends because for me, the way I learned to how to deal and how to cope with it is go back to basics. I don't have
Mhm.
to learn about trends because everything is a proxy of basics economic. You just learn about like I don't know Austrian economy, the school of economy, the Austrian school of economy, for example. You can pretty much understand most of trends that happen in the market by looking at a wider and broader view using that, for example, and uh, and also for companies, Usually, if you go down into the rabbit hole of analyzing stock, you're gonna go into a lot of stuff like metrics
Yeah.
and EBITDAs and margins, profits. But then it's too much stuff, you know. Probably someone's going to launch an AI service that's going to do it for that. You see this trend all around. But
Mhm.
do a step back, go to the basics. What is a company? Well, a company is an engine, it's a printing money machine that takes a, a, so that takes a
Initial
need,
capital.
yeah, takes a need of someone, and delivers value constantly to a group of people solving that need, and that person gives you a commodity, not even money. If you go back to really basics economics, we don't even talk about money in basics economics, we talk about commodities. You can give me money, you can give me gold, you can give me a chicken, you can give me wood. Then you don't have to worry about chat dpt and how it's going to change the market, because you can see every single change that it does by a proxy of all of those basics. You know, ChatGPT is just another tool for that matter for that type of stuff. So the anxiety drops a lot once you start to focus on learning the basics, like what is the economy and how people trade, what is trading, trading, not trading stock, trading in general, how the stock market, like how bubbles happens, you know, all that type of stuff. So you stop caring about trends.
Yeah, I think like some knowledge of Austrian economics. I know some people cringe when they hear it, but they have a very sound theory. And here's the thing: developers to understand how money works, because we are part of that cycle. Okay, like our whole business is fortunately and unfortunately part of this whole money cycle. Like some people, for instance, didn't know that when the, for instance, when the the American uh, raised their interest rates, that was going to impact tech, because at least for the past 10 years, the whole technology business has been influenced by the interest rates on America, even in Brazil, because if
Yeah.
money is cheap, people are just going to give money to whatever company is cheaper to take risks. And then like taking risk is part of being in the IT business.
Dude,
On going back to the, yeah,
I
I
was
just
trying
complete.
to explain that to my girlfriend last week, and it
Yeah.
was so hard because I was trying to convince her that money is something you can buy. And
Yeah.
she was like, okay, so how do you buy money? I was like, you can buy with whatever you want. Most of the time, companies buy money with reputation. If you have good reputation, you go to a bank and they sell you money for a very cheap price. And she was like, okay, so how do you pay the bank? With money as well. But he sold you by the promise that you're gonna pay him eventually with money that you're going to make with the money that you have. So you bought a money in the future with your reputation right now.
Thank
So
you.
all those,
It's
yeah,
easier to explain this. Do you know the rice stones?
no,
What is
I don't.
Rysons?
Have you ever heard of the rice stones?
No.
Rice stones. So there's this these people called the Yap, and like they have one of the oldest ways of money. They have this these discs, these rock discs, and then they just say, "Hey, uh, Johnny has this part of the disc, and then Ricardo has this other part of the disc, and then Joanna has this other part of the disc." So everyone agrees collectively that someone owns a part of that disc. So
Like
that's
shareholders.
yes. And then that is so, I mean, it sounds a bit concrete because it's on a piece of rock. However, that rock doesn't come from the island that they lived in. It comes from a different place, so they're transported by boat. So one day, one of those rocks fell into the sea. However, it kept on being part of the economy because they could still tell that half of their rock belongs to someone, half belongs to someone else. So, and then you can do, like you mentioned, reputation, Marcus. You can do things that will increase the likelihood or the efficiency of the of of how much people give you of that stone. You know, for example, if you invest on your personal branding, on your marketing,
Yes.
on your
You
titles,
invest on reputation.
on your reputation. Actually, basically, brand is reputation, and branding is repetition. This is how
You
I
see,
yeah.
exactly. So you don't have to worry about like the new course someone launched about how to
Yes.
make branding 4.0, because you know what branding is. It's reputation. And reputation is basic economics. There's books for free all around about it.
Yes.
Uh,
So then what you do, just a second,
go ahead.
like
Go ahead.
this can help you explain to her how you buy money, because when you invest on your reputation, now you can do the same amount of work for a larger part of the rock.
Exactly.
Exactly, you bought it with your reputation. You know, something that took me a while. I learned about trading and now how humans get stuff. You know, we trade and then we come up eventually with money. But I was always wondering, how do we define the money? And the eventually you end up, as you study economy and that kind of stuff, into the legal tender, which is a fancy way to say, like the Raystone that you just mentioned, money is the most important asset for a group of people. So if we, all the five of us say, all right, the money is going to be bits, that's the money. But how a government say, okay, this piece of paper that I have the printer, by the way, is the money. Well, he does the following. He makes an army and say, now you got anyone who's within my borders have to pay me taxes. And if and the only method that I accept those payments with is with this paper that I print. And if you do not pay me, I'm gonna make you go to jail or I'm gonna kill you. Now everyone has the same need. Everyone has to pay taxes. Everyone needs this money now. Everyone needs this piece of paper. So now it has value. Now it's the most tradable asset, because if you don't have it, you're probably going to jail. So the name of this is legal tender in economy. Uh, let me send
Legal
it.
Yeah, but even governments, they have to manage their reputation, because if
Yeah, they have to
if the
manage
money
the
machine
reputation. So
is out of hand, then no one believes it anymore, because the whole thing is, okay, the government needs people to pay taxes. But if people, like, if money itself loses value through some bullshit economic policy, no one is going to believe the shitty piece of paper anymore. So the fantasy is over. No one believes you, and you can't reinforce the cycle, because now, like, who's going to believe you? Not even the army is going to believe you. So even the government needs to manage its own reputation at this point.
reputation is crucial for the system, for this trading system. So you stop thinking about money and reais and dollar. You think more about assets, commodities, and trading. We think about how we make value to each other and how we trade stuff. Like, for example, if the government goes wild the next day, this meeting that we have probably is going to continue to happen. We're just going to trade different stuff. Instead of trading money, we're going to trade, I don't know, chickens. Something that we have, but we're going to trade regardless. No one's going to die the next day. Legal tender, by the way, is a law that whenever a government wants to start to exist, he makes a law. And he needs the army at first. So he needs to make the need. He needs to say, no, if you don't pay me taxes with my payment method, I'm going to send you to jail. So that's the first step. And then he makes a law saying that. And that's what a legal tender is. And pretty much he built the need. But if you stop believing that he has access to the army, you don't believe anymore that you can go to jail. Therefore, the money doesn't have it's not that worth anymore. You don't need to have it anymore. So the money starts decreasing value. So government needs to manage reputation as well. Reputation is very important even for the government to have.
And it's important for the individual and for the government. Now, going back to the basics, by the way, because I almost forgot this point. Like, there is one thing that didn't change in computing since the 80s, by the way, and people never noticed that. And people still make money out of it, but it has hardly changed. Maybe it changed technically wise, but if you go to the physical place, it's still the same thing. And every time I say that to people, they're never able to guess what I'm talking about. Like, I want to make this experiment now. What hasn't changed since the late 80s in computing? Like,
No idea.
I'm not even gonna try.
Well, things still run on data centers since the 80s. Like, this is something that hasn't changed. Like, at the end of the day, no matter if you have the best AI in the world, something is going to run in some data center somewhere. The only difference is that we made it cheaper to buy and access them. But at the end of the day, like, this is the most perennial skill you can have in computing right now. That's the most basic and perennial. if you can, like, what people make money nowadays right now is because we got good at managing this at large scale. Because before, like, you need lots of people, you had an entire department in most companies just to manage this. Nowadays, people are getting good at managing that at scale, but the hard skill of actually going and building a server and managing that's like very valuable, and it's very basic. And people are going to pay like lots of money. Probably Amazon is going to hire you, because people joked in the 2008, like, that's what happened. All the good sysadmins went to Amazon work, and that's how Amazon became this giant that is nowadays on cloud computing. Like, that's how. But the basic premise is like things are still running in some server somewhere, in some computer somewhere. That hardly changed.
I have actually something that enforces this argument that Benevides just said. Venezuela, for the matter, one of the most profitable markets. And you can say, all right, Venezuela doesn't have an economy. It does. It doesn't have a central currency like we do, like the reais. But people still, like, again, if you go back to the basics, people are going to continue to do trading. So one of the most traded commodities in Venezuela is actually hardware. So if you can get a pen, like a USB drive, or like we call in Brazil, pen drive, with stuff stored in it, it has a lot of value, because they don't have a networking, they don't have like physical internet connection, that kind of stuff. Yeah, reliable connection. So hardware in a place where the money it's not worth anything. Hardware is still very perennial. It has a lot of value intrinsically to it, because it's like, you can say here, like 1 kilogram of technology with hardware, pretty much. So you can measure it, you can touch it. As the same, it is a very well-defined commodity for technology, hardware itself. Just like you can say that for gold, it's very well defined. So here's a piece of gold. You can say, like, here's a piece of technology. You can have like a small unit, like a pen drive. You can have a bigger unit, like here's a computer, here's a Raspberry Pi. You have units of measurement. You can do stuff with it. You can make value out of it. So hardware is a commodity as well, like Benet said. And regardless of the trend, we're going to continue to need hardware. So if you go back to the basics, there's just a couple of stuff that are commodities, like energy, hardware, gold, stocks, money. Money is also a commodity. You trade that stuff. Food.
That's so cool. I saw an exposition here on money at CCBB. I think it's Centro Cultural Banco do Brasil. They have this whole exposition of the history of money. It's very cool, and it's interesting the way you add value to things. And I didn't realize the power and the role of the army in all this.
The army has a lot of importance on making money.
The connection between the army and the money, like what? Like, I wouldn't see that if you hadn't mentioned it.
You need to make sure people don't steal your stuff, and you can steal for others. That's
That's why you can see a lot of people that are very keen to that type of economy view, which usually are conservatives. They tell you a lot about guns because they see a gun as a way to enforce your reputation. So you will not mess with because they see the government doing it. They know since the government has the guns, it can say you cannot do stuff. So they kind of are defining their own government within their own state, which is the house, the property. So anything within that circle is safe because they have guns now. They are doing the same thing that the government is doing. That's kind of the perspective of it. They're enforcing, in a sense, they can even like define a currency. You see that a lot into those codes in the US. Most of them have guns, and they have ways of like they have an inner currency within that small piece of land because they have a way to enforce that kind of stuff.
Yes, and I love studying storytelling and narratives, and it's amazing how being human is just telling stories basically, because money is fiction. It's just something that we make up.
Yeah, we came up with and said, okay, believe in it.
and we invent its value. Like we give value to anything that we want. Like in the, you just mentioned that some niches might have their own currency. For example, in the prison, it might be cigarettes and stuff, right?
Yes.
So money is all intrinsic to us. I even believe
Because in
there's
most cases, what really happens is people have needs and they need a mean to get some of their needs. And that's how we invent money to do stuff. You know, that's why, for instance, cigarettes in a prison, this is literally money. It's currency on a prison.
Yeah.
Because people
And
want to get a good time.
you go back to the basics. You have a group of people. They are within the boundaries. They have enforced the law, and they have the most valuable asset, cigarettes. There it is. You have money. Doesn't need to have. Doesn't need to be.
the basic, like the pillars of money.
There's three
Hundreds?
actually. There's Let me
What's
draw it down. Three. Because I'm doing a simplification of it. But let me get actual one. 3 rules for money, and is. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. What's the name of it? There's actually an academic name for it. But money gotta be divisible, as far as I know. There's three.
Yeah, I think it has to be divisible, easy to transport, right, or share.
Easy to transport, to share.
Yeah.
And what's the third one? It gotta be the most valuable asset within space, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Something to that extent. There's the actual very well-defined economy explanation for that, but you can see cigarettes is something like that, you know. Exactly. Billy just said, well, medium of exchange, unit of account, store of value. So
save lives.
You know about this, Billy? How did you find this out?
GPT save lives.
He keeps gold in his basement.
It saves lives. Yeah, that's the type of thing that once you learn, it changes your life. You see the world differently.
Not only that, you start managing, because here's the thing, especially as developers, you need to learn, like, is it the easy way or hard way, how to manage your own wealth? Because in Brazil, which is like Brazil is a very poor country, okay?
Yeah.
People who do software development right now, they are getting, or they're going to get, okay, I'm being kind right now because the market is still okay and Brazilians have a good reputation. Guess what? Brazilians have a good reputation worldwide for software development. And we are getting a good time. There is a pretty good chance, for instance, that, okay, we're not going to be part of the elite, because when I say the elite, like I say people who with millions of hundreds of dollars, okay? But people who have this skill about development, and if you think about it, the skill for software development right now, you can get someone's idea into a tangible product that makes money. That's why usually we are well paid, and it's not very regulated, which is also one of the reasons why it's well paid stuff. Okay, like, so we can make someone's idea into something that can make profit, that can make money. So it's a very interesting skill. But if you're going to be well paid for that, or better, if you're going to open a company where you can make lots of money, that's the next step, by the way, is not when you are paid by the time that you sell, is when you are able to get other people's time to give you more money. That's what being basically the owner of a company is. You are using other people's time, or you're selling something to them to get more money out of it. You scale better. You need to know how that newly acquired wealth is going to be used. And the best way is like actually learning how money works. So you don't fall into many people fall into this trap where they don't understand money and then suddenly they get lots of it. And then
and they lose it.
And they lose it.
All of it.
Sometimes they don't lose it in one generation, but it disappears after 2 generations. So even if you are very good at hoarding it, your children are going to lose it all because you never told them how it works. You're supposed to tell them.
Something that's very hard to get is if you start to learn about money, you believe less about the meritocracy. Something that's hard. Yeah, you stop believing into that. And it's kind of bad because you stop seeing yourself as the hero, because once you believe more in meritocracy, you see yourself as the hero. You know, you earning it. But there's a lot of stuff that goes around money as well that's out of your control. For example, going back to the technology, talking about like the trends, then now you have all those tools now, those frameworks. You don't need to worry about like what is a TikToker. You don't even need to know what is a TikToker. You ask, all right, what is a TikToker doing? Who's he's making value for? Well, he's entertaining someone, so he's making value for that matter, and he's getting a community around him because is the community of people that he entertains. We know probably this guy gets a lot of money because he has a reputation. Reputation is a commodity. Companies usually want buy reputation, so they pay a lot of money for that. Like Bene said, a technology guy is well paid because he can make a company, which is like an engine of solving issues, solutions better. So they get a lot of money for that. You kind of understand. You don't even need to see the thing to understand why it makes more or less money in capitalism, in a sense.
Or
You just need to
or as a
understand.
developer, you understand how to scale stuff. For
Yeah,
instance, you can see, for instance, there are areas on Brazil which are very slow and very like unoptimal, very non-optimal. And when you see how it works on inside, it's all based, for instance, into getting more people to do more work. So you see that this particular place, I'm not going to say the name, but you can see this a lot in the judiciary or some public companies out of there, public places out of that, where people try to scale people instead of understanding processes and making them lean and making things optimal. Okay, your skill as a developer should be identifying where you can make things optimal, because you're always manipulating information. Like you have to understand processes, and that's something that takes a while. It takes a lot of book reading, probably. So it takes a lot of reading books, and of course, and also reading English books, because guess what, kids? And that's why probably most of you are here. Most of you are using Costas and Giga Pro service. Is you want to get better in English for your career, but learning English as well. It's a nice way for you to get information in English, which is how most of the good information is written nowadays. And if you can get there faster than everyone else, you can take, well, if you are one of the first people, you can charge more. So, like, if you are one of the first to learn a particular thing that can make you 10 times more productive, there's a pretty good chance that there's something written in English for it, and you want to be the first person to take the opportunity. This is like, it's how the market works. So get better at English.
And let's say, I don't know, the tech bubble will explode. There's no programmers tomorrow. Still, you learn English. You can sell stuff. You can deliver value to people in a different place. You can make money out of this. You can get commodities out of this. English, knowing English itself is a tool to which people trade commodities for. Right now, the dollar is one of the biggest commodities out there, just like gold. And that's why you get a lot of money. That's why we're all trying to get into like tech industry, speaking English. But I don't know, in 3 years, it could be Mandarin, for the matter. Same logic, you just learn Mandarin, and you start to get the highest commodity. Like everyone's saying, like yen is the biggest commodity right now. So you just learn the new language and deliver value to those guys.
That's
Always go back to the bit. Always go back to the basics. Always go back to the basics. Learn. And the fun part is the basics for free.
Oh yeah, exactly.
By the way, this video is on YouTube, so if you're watching this, subscribe to the channel and click the link below in the description to be a member of Giga Pros and be in these meetings with amazing VIP guests every week. And also,
it's weekly.
Get the chance to get all individual, like one-on-one mentoring for your specific career. Okay. I want to also mention that when you think about making profit for someone else, this is also a great way of framing your actions, right? Because, okay, I'm gonna call what you guys call each other Bene and Costa, just because it's two Marcus.
Yeah, that's how people.
So
Exactly, yeah, that's an issue we have.
Costa said like, oh, I don't have to know what a TikToker is, just what they do. So they gather a community around them, and people buy reputation. But also, what this person is doing is keeping this community in a platform that sells ads. So even they make money because someone else is making more money.
Yeah.
In a sense, attention is a commodity inside
Yeah.
TikTok, because the time people who consume TikTok, they could be elsewhere in another platform making ad money for someone else. So a TikToker keeps people's attention, which is itself a commodity in this digital social network world.
Exactly. You see how fun this is, because then you start to understand the whole world around you. Then
Yes.
TikTok's not something that's going to get you scared. ChatGPT is not something to get you scared.
Oh yeah.
You understand how economy works. So if ChatGPT kills you, next day you try to do different things. Because back to the basics, we're pretty much doing the same things until this day. We just trade stuff. We
Yes.
believe we're well advanced. We just find a way to trade stuff very in a fancy manner. But at the end of the day, everyone's just trading.
Yes. And as a content creator, I've been trying to invest more on ads, which is, I mean, the same logic. I have to make them money if I want to make money. So if I don't make them money, I am money in a way. Because
Yeah.
Because if I just create free content all the time and I just don't sell anything, I'm just keeping those people on the platform so other people can make money and the platform can make money as well. But if I start thinking in the frame of ads, okay, how can I make an offer that people will buy, and how much can I invest on this so I can make more money with that? How can I profit with this tool? And what most people mistake, and I have done that for the longest time, I'm only now investing on ads seriously, is that like I'm gonna do this organically. I'm gonna invest on design, I'm gonna invest on copy, I'm gonna invest on everything by creating products and running ads. Like you're investing on everything that doesn't make money directly. And there are people that are making hundreds of thousands by just printing, like taking a screenshot of their stories, because they have a message, they have a product, they have a strong and urgent need that they know how to solve, and they just take a screenshot, they post on the feed, and they just run ads on it, and they sell thousands, because they are investing on the right thing, making a great offer and running ads, and the rest is details, is like embellishment.
Yeah. Do that for the matter. Like for the story that I was going to mention was about like Fsharp. There's a very small community, so you can build your circle very easily with that. And once you have the circle, you have a reputation. With reputation, you can trade for other stuff. For example, I traded it for a position, international position. So you can trade for something else. You can trade for, I don't know, a recommendation letter for a university.
Yes. Costa, let me ask you something. I've looked for you on LinkedIn. I didn't find you. Actually, neither of you guys.
Well, I am on LinkedIn.
Oh, Bene. Just say.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am.
And Costa, are you?
I reactivated my account. I was getting too many messages and I got annoyed by it, so I deactivated it for a while.
But
It was
was
too
it,
popular.
you just mentioned that you got your position through reputation. Did it, like, was LinkedIn in any way part of that?
I went to the Slack community of Fsharp, and I heard about a position. Okay, so far so good. Then what I did is, okay, like I said, back to the basics, but let's do an example applying that for like technology. I have this company, and again, I applied once, and I know that I need reputation to get it easily. You can get it the hard way. There's nothing wrong about it, but there's usually a easy way. Reputation is part of that equation. So how do I build a reputation in a company that I'm not even inside of it? So what I did is I went for the guy that posted about the role. I found out who he was connected with, and I looked for those guys into the Slack community as well. So I started to talk to those guys and make my name. So again, I'm building a community. So first, I had the position itself, I applied it for. So far, so good. Usually, this is where people will stop. I didn't. Let me make reputation. So I start to connect to those people that are inside that company. Let me get to know them. And what I did is like I had to usually in the market, the way you build reputation is by delivering value to other people because people have by default they mistrust. This is something that we build for because of evolution itself. So they by default they don't trust you, and then once you earn reputation, once you earn confidence, they start to uh, trust you, and then you have this whole network of reputation. So I start to talk to them and learn about what the company does because my idea was let me make even before the interview itself, let me try because I know they are going to test me because Fsharp is something that's very rare in the market. So they probably will not believe if I know or not just by asking me about it. I could be lying. So how do I have a proof of that? Undeniable. Well, I gotta build something for them. And I know that usually when a company wants to do that type of proof, they are going to make an example out of the business itself. So what I did is ahead of time, they didn't ask me for that. I started to talk to those guys and understand the company. By within it, I knew how the company worked even before the first interview. And then on my free time, I started to build a project like in Fsharp, which is the language I was applying for, about implementing those business rules. So by the time I got into the first interview, I already had the third interview done. I had the whole thing done in Fsharp. So the time that I got into the third interview, I could get the job done in like 2 hours. I just said, "Oh, here's the thing," and the guy said, "You already got it," and I was like, "I did it way back then." So I was showing them that one, I was proactive. Two, uh, I had a very well-defined knowledge of F#, but then there's the reputation part as well. Remember those guys that I was talking with? I kept them in the loop all around during the process of building that thing, even before the first interview, because then I was showing them that I was very interested into that position. I wanted them to point into their manager saying, this guy is really the type of guy we want. So I was building a network even from outside the company itself. I was doing reputation. I was selling myself. I was making this network within the company. And again, I was doing all of that from outside. I was not part of the company as of that time. So I built a project. I connected the people. I start to make a name for myself. I explicitly asked them to recommend me to their boss who was going to vouch for me. And then I got on the first try because again, I was doing the basic stuff. I was not only relying on being, I knew I could do the job decent, very well done. But then there's more stuff to the equation. It's not only about meritocracy itself. There's like reputation, there's value delivered. So by the time that I got into the interview, I already delivered value. So they know that I could do the job they want. I had a network of people that would vouch for me. So I built reputation. And I had all the prerequisites of the position. So it was a no-brainer for them to hire me. You see, because I was again going back to the basics. So that's how I managed to get into the first try. I just applied once and I got it. But again, I had a plan and I had an understanding of the whole politics of how to do stuff in a sense, not only coding. Coding is part of the equation, but not the only part of it.
Yeah. But how did you know that you wanted to work for this company? Because it's very easy for you to get, snowed under in a way, like to get overwhelmed with the number of options. And like, was this
Yeah.
like one of the few options in the market for this language? How did you decide?
No, again, I applied once. So how I knew exactly what I want to go. Part of my something that drives me is to be able to work into the spatial industry, actually building rockets, literally just working with that type of stuff. spatial
science.
exploration, rock science, literally. And for that, I would need to first work into internationally at some company of the field, and most of them are in the US. So the first thing, even before applying for, I don't know, SpaceX, I know SpaceX would not hire me because of legal reasons, but even going, I couldn't go from Brazil to SpaceX directly. So my idea was, let me go first to a US company and then I go to SpaceX, for example. SpaceX would not hire me because, again, of legal reasons. But the
Why?
plan originally was that. Because spatial exploration is part of government activities. So I could be like a spy trying to get like something that's very sensitive about the government itself.
Yep.
The idea was pretty much it. I knew that I want to work in that type of field, and I knew that the best way, again, to get into the type of field was building a reputation. How do you build a reputation in a different country? Well, we first go over there and work.
Yeah. And that was a pretty good plan. I think that's the best description of how to get a job, because you
Guys,
showed that you could be a good investment.
Following
because-
10 minutes either way, so
Okay,
Don't worry.
yeah, that's fine. So you need to show that you are a good investment. So it's all about money at the end of the day again. So because they are
Capitalism.
investing on you as well.
You are a
Because,
commodity as well.
It seems that this guy, we won't need to spend that much with onboarding because he already understands part of the process. So it's all about
Exactly.
investments at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Understand
you have
money.
to learn the basics. You are
Yeah.
commodity as well, and he's thinking. Benet was very on point of that. They are thinking about, all right, the price of onboarding this guy is very low. He already onboarded himself. Let me buy him.
Yeah, that's
How
it.
much you want?
Because
The
here's
cost.
why I think here's why people don't trust, especially when they're recruiting. We have this not trusting behavior, okay? Because if you look at the median tenure on people on technology companies, it's like less than a year. So it's like, okay, we're going to invest on this guy, we're going to train him, and then he's going to leave in 1 year. What the fuck? Okay, so you need to show you're going to be a good investment. It's like, you don't learn this with just coding. What he gave you is a blueprint to get hired anywhere you want. Like he literally spills some secrets here, which are like hard to learn by yourself.
exactly. So like maybe reducing costs and maximizing profits. For example, I like to work on branding projects, and so I provide solutions for businesses and content creators, like websites and like the actual brand identity and strategy and content and everything. And sometimes they ask me to do a specific thing. Can you make a website for me? And I can do that. So I give like an estimate and basically a timeline. But I can also not charge for the project, come up with a strategy, and get a part of the profit. So like in that way, I reduce my cost and I maximize their profit. So the likelihood of me working with them for a longer period of time is higher.
Especially in a place where people don't hire full-time so much, right?
Yes,
That's perfect. That's literally a strategy. Yeah.
exactly. Billy,
Have a solid plan.
how do you heard your voice today?
Yeah.
You're getting lots of hints. Yeah, I can hear you.
So I understand something you said because my vocabulary is very basic. I how can I say esperava?
I was expecting.
Yes, I expected to talk about my day. They say the economy, this economy, this capitalism, AI. So it is the real life. Yes, this real life is very good. I like this, but Per Carlo send me a link this meeting, but I don't know what's happening. There's no come.
Well, you just got, for instance, one literally blueprint on how to get work, how to get a job on a US company. Like literally someone is spelled to you a list of things that the person did to get like, and that's like the best thing ever. No one is going to tell you that, by the way. They're going to tell you, oh, apply to this, apply to that. Like, go send a cover letter. This almost works.
Yes.
You just gave me the idea for the title of the
Yeah.
how to get a job in a US company. And actually put something else on the thumbnail. You're doing it wrong. Like
Yeah.
you're doing it wrong, and your face like and then how to get a job in the US company.
Like this thing about cover letters and sending stuff, like it almost never works. Like
Not only that, people reproduce that because they don't understand as well. So they're trying to just come up with bullshit. In my opinion, it's just like they're just reproducing stuff. It's not really. You gotta really understand how stuff work to come up with a solid plan with no brainer, and then you can do that for any type of field, not only tech.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, Billy, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have questions. I like this moment. I expect to stay here in other times. This is very cool. I need international job. I need to make
that's a worthy goal.
I need some dollars.
Yeah, I need some dollars for my wallet.
Why?
Uh,
Before you answer the question, Costa was just telling us how the whole strategy that he went through depended on his vision, on what he imagined he's going to be doing in the future. So I'm asking you why you want to earn in dollars, because I want to know your vision. What are you imagining for yourself?
Yes. Today I work in 4 jobs. Okay, 4 jobs because I need. I don't know. Some jobs coming for me. One moment.
Okay.
Something is done.
Okay, what happened?
Oh, someone just joined the call.
It's touching the window.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need more time. Yes, I need more time because this 4 job consume my all time. So so I need more time in working at international company. I have more time for my health, my family, my friends, my life quality. So this way for have these things, you know.
Because like when we usually we're always learning about our target audience, and we usually think in terms of money. Like you want to earn in dollars, you want to earn in euros, in pounds, want to work abroad, want to relocate, travel the world. But we didn't touch on the matter of time yet, which I need more time. Which like you may make the same money in the end of the day, but with much more time in your hands, which is a very valuable resource, right? So to invest on your money, on your family, on your health, on your friends, and improving your life quality. This is amazing. Thank you for that insight. And actually, you can be a member of Giga. I will send you the PDF so you can know the details, and you can come every week to those meetings, and also get one-on-one help from us. Okay, on your career.
Okay. I need more time is kind of this.
Amazing. You'll love it. So if you're watching this on YouTube, there's also a link in the description where you can contact us and know more about how to become a member. So thanks a lot, Benet, for coming. It was a huge help. Actually, we didn't touch on the fact that you do speak Mandarin as well.
I'm learning Mandarin, but here's the reason. I don't think English is going to go away. And this is all about thinking about an investment. English is not going to go away.
Yes.
Chinese people, they speak English very well when they learn it. But the best way to earn the trust of some Chinese person is to speak Mandarin, because they trust you better. Okay, this guy went to the effort. So it's kind of like increasing my value. If China
Yeah.
gets like superpower status and starts dominating the world, I'm going to say hello to my new overlords easier, and they're going to trust me better, and I can earn the Chinese bucks easier. So it's all about building trust faster and earning the bucks faster.
Also,
And also being part of a niche, right?
as
But
well.
what?
Also, you're being part of a niche, like the niche of people that
Say
know.
all these. Yes.
I'll say I'll bit back to the basics again.
Yes.
Also, for me, for example, one thing is like we don't work too much with the US when we're talking about spatial exploration, but we are in the BRICS.
Yeah.
So for me, it's an investment to learn Chinese because if I'm planning to work in that field, most likely I'm going to work with Chinese technology.
And not only that, China has a demand for high-skilled workers in certain places, and they are willing to make the crazy risk. Okay, let's get some those crazy Brazilians there. Okay, like that. There is also that thing about it.
Have a vision, though. Have a vision. Then you can come up with a
Should
strategic plan.
come back to talk about this. Should we learn Mandarin? Like, it's a good topic for us to discuss. So,
Yeah, it's interesting.
and for now, since you do have to leave in 1 minute, so let's take a picture to register this meeting and also use in the.
Oh, I'm not going to steal that.
By the way, we have
London.
a registered gesture here in Giga. It came from Costa, which is doing this. So if you want to do this, that would be nice.
Oh, yes, he did?
Yes.
Okay.
Come on. 1, 2. Billy? Perfect. This is called a visual icon. This is part of primal branding and is a way to build a community. Thanks a lot for being with us and enjoy the rest of your night, guys.
Thanks. It was awesome talking to you folks. See you.
See you. Bye-bye.